Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of our national election debates. Tonight we're coming to you live from the Northern Cape. This is where we are debating the issue of poverty in our country, poverty in the land of plenty, as some would say. Well, this debate series, of course, brought to you by SABC News in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Well, without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into it with this introduction from an insert prepared for us by one of our local producers.
Poverty, hunger, and unemployment. Poverty, hunger, and unemployment. This is the reality of over 100 families living at Ivory Park, which lies 15 kilometers outside Kimberley. The informal settlement is home to Martha Klein, who lives with 4 other family members. The Klein's family lives on less than 61 rand a day, which they get through disability and child grants. Their stable meal is pap and water.
Our life is very hard. We cannot survive on a disability pension that my mother gets, and it breaks my heart to see my children living like this. Sometimes I regret not giving them up for adoption.
Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal remain the poorest provinces in the country. Limpopo has the poverty head count of 50%.
The problem is very big, if I may say. That is why at the Department of Social Development, we have established soup kitchens, and for this year we have established 28 soup kitchens, and all in all we are having 137 soup kitchens and drop-in centers that helps our people, that we are funding as the department. We are funding the soup kitchens to say, let our people not die with hunger or poverty while we are here.
In the Northern Cape, the government provides food for more than 250,000 households. The 2012 Global Hunger Index estimated that South Africa was ranked 9th in the world for the highest hunger levels. Margaret Mutibi, SABC News, Kimberley in the Northern Cape.
Poverty in the land of plenty. Well, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Dr. Joe Pasha from the ANC. Almost half of South Africans living below the poverty line. What could be the cause from where the African National Congress, which we are representing this evening, sits?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. From the ANC, right from the time we attained our freedom and democracy in 1994, we're very clear that the next struggle was going to be the struggle against poverty. And it is for that reason that from the time we got into government in 1994, over the last 20 years, our focus, all our policies have been firmly rooted on fighting and eradicating poverty. And that's why even under extreme circumstances, when economic conditions were very difficult, we made sure that the central programs whose focus was really the fight against poverty, key amongst which has been within the social development arena, the whole issue of extending provision of grants of various types from old age, disability, up to child support grant and various other forms of grants, and not only continue making sure that we cover more people from the amount of people, 2.4 million were covered in 1996, but today as we speak, more than 16 million people are covered. But over and above that, we have also made sure that we not only increase access in terms of income support, but also in terms of basic services, such as provision of water, electricity, and sanitation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Pasha. Well, let's ask Mr. Pakes Dikhetsi from the Congress of the People. From where you sit as the Congress of People, what is wrong in South Africa today? Why do we still have half our people, half the number of people in South Africa still living below the poverty line?
Thank you very much, Vuyo, and good evening to the listeners. From the point of view of the Congress of the People, we are indeed sad to note that half of the population of South Africa lives in poverty. In fact, it's not just poverty. There are other challenges of unemployment and inequality. And in fact, South Africa ranks as the highest in the world in terms of inequality. Poverty is deep-rooted in this country, and it is as a result of the failure of governance. It's as a failure of poor leadership. It's as a result of poor leadership, and it's as a result of policies that are really outdated that needs to be corrected, and new policies need to be implemented. And so we believe as the Congress of the People that South Africa deserves a better government. And we believe that the people of South Africa can deliver that on the 7th of May.
Thank you very much. Well, let's hear now from Mr. McBride Mutsache from the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Thank you, viewer, and good evening, all viewers. The EFF itself, for its establishment, it was very clear when we established the EFF, amongst the other issues, was the issues of giving back our people economy. That our people must not be able to benefit from handouts continuously, as the current government is creating. That's why we have said it is important that we address the issue of the land in this country. That the issue of the land is very critical as the EFF, that we need to expropriate land of this country without compensation, which were robbed from the majority of our people, which our people have, it have resulted in many of our people that the half of the people of South Africa living under impoverishment. Therefore, it is important as the EFF, that's why we are saying it is important that we need to nationalize these mines. We need to nationalize the banks so that our people must be able to have, credit. They must have able to have access to credit in banks. Nationalization is important as the backbone of the EFF.
Mr. McBride Mutsache, thank you very much. Let's go now to Dr. Wilmot James of the Democratic Alliance. Your party's position, sir. Dr. James?
Our country has made great strides, but the fact is that 19 million South Africans live in households with incomes less than the poverty line. And poverty is especially prevalent in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. The fact is that 8 million South Africans should be in the labor market, but they are not. They are unemployed. We believe, the DA believes that the state should provide a social safety net to protect vulnerable South Africans. We support social grants. We support social grants that lift people out of poverty. But the fact is that to really grow, we must make this economy grow so that we can create jobs for South Africans, especially young South Africans. For those who are able to work, a job is the best way out of poverty. And therefore, the DA's policy focuses on increasing the number of jobs available, on helping South Africans to start their own businesses, and to include those who are currently left out of the economy.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Wilmot James from the Democratic Alliance. Just a reminder to you at home that, of course, you can join this conversation. The numbers and the contact details will be on your screen. You can send us an email, elections@sabc.co.za. That email address again, elections@sabc.co.za. You can also SMS as the number is 33726. That number again, 33726, and it will cost you R1.50 per SMS. You can also begin, of course, with the word vote. SMSs cost R1.50. For tweets, you can use the hashtag SABC Elections, and you can find us on Facebook and on SABC News Online. We'll be back right after this ad break.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
South Africa take the biggest prize in rugby. the new look Hansa, designed to celebrate 20 years of freedom and the next generation of dreamers.
Mop-up operations continued in various parts of the Western Cape today after the province was hit by devastating storms at the weekend. 3 deaths have been reported. Thousands have been affected.
In the first 9 months of the year, credit card fraud shot up by 22%. This has cost the banking industry more than 366 million rand.
So what consumers must now watch out for is that if they believe their card is swallowed, they must cancel their card whilst they're actually in front of the ATM.
That's Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Good day and welcome to yet another evening of Afro Showbiz News. This show is here to bring you all things art and entertainment. South African film Of Good Report has opened at the London Film Festival. The film caused much controversy in South Africa when it was banned at the Durban International Festival in July. The International Comics Festival was held in Algeria for the first time this week. The event saw illustrators from all over the world come together in the capital of Algiers. Ghana pays tribute to poet Kofi Awonu, killed in the Nairobi mall attack.
That's Afro Showbiz News, Saturdays 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Well, if you've just joined us, whether on SABC 1, Channel 404, SAFM and SABC News Online, welcome to this evening's special broadcast. We're coming to you live from Kimberley, and tonight we are talking about poverty. Now, Dr. Pasha, you did certainly outline almost everything that the ANC has done since 1994 in addressing the issue of poverty in our country. But the situation doesn't seem to be improving. The other day, it was quite a sobering thought on Friday morning, watching our television breakfast program, Morning Live, and the deputy chairperson of the Human Rights Commission was talking about this specific issue and how, in fact, the situation has not improved. They are busy putting together a report which, as I say, doesn't seem to show that the picture has improved at all. And I subsequently spoke to the CEO of the Human Rights Commission yesterday, and this is what he had to tell me.
What we have found, firstly, is that there is a major problem with respect to access to food and food security across the country. Approximately 16 million South Africans don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And I think this gives a sense of just how serious the problem of poverty is in South Africa. Of course, linked to the question of poverty is also the question of inequality. And we recognize that the growing gap between the rich and the poor in South Africa exacerbates the problem of poverty. We are focused largely on the question of poverty, but I think it's time that we have a conceptual shift and focus focus on the wealthy and ask the wealthy what are they doing to assist in ensuring that this gap between the rich and the poor are being addressed.
Dr. Patla?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vuyo. Let me firstly say that I'm actually puzzled by the report from the Commissioner on Human Rights Commissioner, because what he's saying completely contradicts other studies, independent, not by government, not by the ANC. If you had seen recently a report by the South African Institute of Race Relations, which outlined the extent to which, if there is anything which the ANC-led government cannot be blamed for, it's in terms of delivering on basic services, including... and these are not only, as I said, research results from the Institute of Race Relations, from the Goldman Sachs, from various other independent reports. They've indicated that major advances have been made. And it can't be true that when so many people currently, as I've outlined, over 16 million people do access income grant through the various forms of social grant. Millions of people access houses. Millions of people access water. Millions of people today access electricity and other basic services. So we would start from the basic point of departure, which says a lot has been achieved over the last 20 years, but we also accept that a lot more still needs to be done. But the magnitude, it sounds to me quite curious that he mentions a number of 16 million people who don't know where to get food, while at the same time we can show that over 16 million people do benefit from just income, excluding other forms of support.
Okay, we will interrogate some of the points you are raising, Dr. Patla, in a short while. But I want to come to you, Dr. Wilmot James, because the Democratic Alliance makes a meal of what you are doing in the Western Cape. Every time the Democratic Alliance speak, you say that it's an example of how things should be done. Interestingly, though, what the Human Rights Commission has actually found is that the number in pockets of the Western Cape shoots up above that average of 50% to about 70-71% in certain instances, and that is in the Western Cape. Let's hear what the HRC had to say around this particular issue.
So in Cape Town, it's one of those very strange provinces. When you look at the province globally, the numbers seem very low, and so you don't recognize that there is a problem of access to food, for example, in the Western Cape. But when you disaggregate those numbers and you look at particular townships within the Western Cape, the numbers are particularly high. There are cases where there are communities up to 50% who are food insecure, and even higher in certain instances. And I think these anomalies don't necessarily come out when you look at the global stats. And when you do comparative analyses between the Western Cape and other provinces, the Western Cape often seems like it's doing quite well. But when you dig deeper, just below the surface, you come to recognize that the problem is widespread, and that the Western Cape is also part of the global problem around access to food and food insecurity in South Africa.
Dr. Wilmot James, the Western Cape is in fact not better.
Well, let me start off by saying that unemployment in the Western Cape is the lowest in the country.
Yes, continue, Dr. James.
76% of the Western Cape's budget is dedicated to service delivery in poor communities. What we have done, the City of Cape Town spends 64% of its service delivery budget on the provision of services to the poor. 99% of households in the Western Cape have access to piped water, 94% to electricity, and 91% to flush toilets. The City of Cape Town has provided over 40,000 work opportunities through its EPW project, and so on and so forth. When it comes to... But we are not perfect. A lot more needs to be done. And where there are areas of poverty and a lack of food security, we dedicate ourselves to improving the lives of all by making food security a reality.
Well, I'm going to come to both of you gentlemen. if you listen to the ANC, if you listen to the Democratic Alliance, both say that where they are ruling, they are in fact doing something, and it's the best that they can do.
There is always this problem between both the DA and the ANC to always refer to bin counting and quantities and not looking at the quality of the things that they are doing. What we think as the Congress of the People needs to happen is that the NDP needs to be released from the clutches of a petty party political entrapment and ensure that the NDP is actually implemented across the country without any political bias. Because we need to develop strategies to make sure that we implement the National Development Plan so that it can benefit all people of South Africa.
Mr. Motsaka?
Look, the reality is that the issue of what the ANC is saying, that they've given pensioners, for instance, grants and so on, it has managed to build houses. But the input, it is equal to the output. Because the reality, if you look, the houses that the ANC built, they fall apart. They steal money from those houses, the development of houses. The grants that they are giving, even the pensioner that are getting, the old pension grants is 1,300. It's not sufficient to able to leverage poverty. Rather to end up, those people, they end up in the loan sharks. But as the EFF were very clear, like to give the pensioners 2,600 so that they must have a living, that to earn. The proper houses that we are going to build as the EFF are really sufficient and equal and able to give the right, the right of the equality of the people and right to have a belonging in South Africa. What the DA is mentioning with the EPW programs and so on, those are casualization. They have no any instance in South Africa to work out, but only to casualize our people. The EPWP does not assist us, and even the DA and the ANC, they only find themselves to hire their own members, which they are not the community are benefiting from.
Okay, gentlemen, do you want to respond 10 seconds each? Very briefly, Dr. James.
Well, you know, the fact is that it is the ANC national government that controls fiscal policy, it controls monetary policy, partly through the Reserve Bank, it controls, the ANC national government controls trade policy, industrial policy, labor policy, higher education and training policies. Look what we've done in the Western Cape. Imagine if we control the national levers. Because by controlling the national levers, we can get this economy growing at 8% a year to create jobs.
Okay, Dr. James, thank you. Dr. Pasha, do you want to respond, the ANC?
Let me just say that I think Dr. James is not responding to the question which Mr. Vuyo here has raised through the Commission of the Human Rights Commission. You see, when he says that we must look at the Western Cape, it means what he's saying is that if they were ruling the whole of the country in terms of the HSRC, actually the income gap between the poor and the rich will be much wider, as the HSRC is already saying.
Thank you very much. Well, this conversation continues, but right now we are going to take a quick commercial break. But before we do that, let's read some of the tweets that some of you have sent through. Enough of promises about narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor. When and how are they going to implement the plans? That's Murweng. Sbozi Tamgwengwe says, 20 years in democracy, SA shows slow progress in addressing poverty. 16 million in grants means more independent than dependent. Vivian Swartz says, how could government assist social workers to prevent kids from being removed from families in poor areas? Well, of course, do keep those tweets and SMSs and emails coming. We'll be back right after this short ad break.
Get the Samsung Galaxy S4 from Telkom with a massive 5 gigs data, 100 included minutes and free uncapped Wi-Fi for just $369 per month on SA's best mobile broadband network. Rethink possibilities. Call, click, go to a Telkom store. Telkom.
It's incredible how this cup of coffee got here.
Explain.
Well, the farmer has to know when it's going to rain. The buyer needs to know when to buy. The trucks when to collect. For that, you need a satellite to talk to the ships and the factories.
So where's the coffee in all this?
I don't know, in a big warehouse somewhere. Which has to make sure that every farmer gets paid in the right currency.
So who does all of that?
Who knows?
Zoom into Africa. This is Egypt. The interim president is Mr. Adli Mahmoud Mansour. Egypt got independent from United Kingdom on 28 February 1922. The population is more than 83 million people. One of the major languages spoken is Arabic. Monetary unit is Egyptian pound.
You missed the Oscar Pistorius trial? Watch the update and highlights of key moments in the trial on SABC News Channel 404 every night at 9 o'clock and at 5 a.m. All local, all global, all the time.
Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching a live election debate. And this evening we're talking about poverty in our country. What's wrong? Why can't we fix this problem? Half the number of people we have in this country live below the poverty line. And what are we doing about it? Well, some of you have sent SMSs. One SMS from Elia in Kempton says, the reason is the government must empower people with skills, not with food. Teach them how to catch a fish. Another email from Pule in Mawele. From Pule, it says, it's about time we have leaders who would stop protecting their stomachs and serve our poor nation. Viva EFF. Some of your SMSs, do keep them coming. Keep those emails as well as tweets and Facebook messages coming in as well. Now, I want to come back to the political parties represented here and ask the question, starting with COPE here. What is the role of corruption in the poverty that we're seeing today, if at all?
Well, Vuyo, there's empirical evidence and studies worldwide. There's studies on the African continent in which it was proven, actually, that corruption and poverty are actually serious problems that undermines the human rights of people, and that corruption leads to poverty, and it takes away serious resources that needs to go into the development of people, and it takes them away and into the pockets and the bellies of certain leaders.
Mr. Mutsacha?
Yeah, thank you, Dio. The corruption we've seen, it has stolen many things from the poor. Those have been given contracts in other areas and part of the Kimberley, we know. Those people have not even built those houses. The Raton Park is one of the symbols that you can say. It takes 15 years to build those RDP houses. Every year, budget is allocated. But you find out those houses have not been built. And therefore, it shows the level of corruption in this country. And the BE, which is also stealing from us, because those BE bring you know, they bring what you call they are bringing what you call to steal, you know, a cheap labor. They bring cheap material, they deliver to our people, and therefore they say that is correct, and we must say these things are correct. Therefore, this is the ANC that is able to steal from the, and they are the architect of corruption.
Dr. Wilmot James, the Democratic Alliance.
Well, the fact is that we are losing 38 billion rand a year in wasteful expenditure and corruption and fraud. The building of Nkandla is an example of corruption. What we need to do is focus on leadership. We should focus on ethics and moral leadership. And in the case of President Jacob Zuma, is to ask him to lead by example. We must also ask Mr. Julius Malema to lead by example for the EFF, because he says no example at all when it comes to looking at the history of corruption in this country. So the fact is that we need state institutions that have the teeth and the courage to stop the corruption, because corruption is theft and it takes away money that can be spent on poor people, on schools, on providing opportunities for those who need it.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pasha.
Well, there is no doubt that corruption cannot go hand in hand with development. And as the ANC, we have been very firm on that, and we have taken a number of steps. In fact, a lot of what people know today in terms of some of the corrupt activities which have taken place in various parts of the country, it's been largely because of the work which the ANC government has done in terms of legislation, in terms of various policies, and in terms of acting, and in terms of supporting the institutions, even the institutions which I don't want to go into the detail of which Dr. James is referring to, the public protector. That's an institution which came through the initiative of an ANC-led government, as it saw with the SIU, with the Auditor General, and various other institutions. And various acts have been taken, a lot of people have been arrested, have been charged, in terms of making sure that we can deal firmly with corruption.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pasha from the ANC. Mr. Mutsache, I don't know if you don't want to respond directly to Dr. Wilmot James. They're saying your own leader, Mr. Julius Malema, has not covered himself in glory on this one.
No, I think the EFF is very clear that we respect the rule of law. What is against our leader, we believe that it will remain clear up until proven otherwise in the court of law. I just want to say that also from the ANC there, that they have put this institution that they say they are proud of, but the same ANC is undermining the same institution, and even this institution outcomes are not being taken adhered to. You see, and also other legislation that has been put into place, like your auditor generals here in the province, their reports have been coming, but people have not brought to justice. Therefore, we cannot say that they have dealt with the issue of corruption.
Dr. Pasha, do you want to respond quickly?
Well, I would say that, you see, you must separate between, we have been very clear at the various policy platforms to say all these institutions, we support their work, we are responsible as a majority party to endorse their establishment, but it doesn't mean that as citizens of the country, every citizen within the very basic constitution of the country, every citizen is protected by law and the constitution. Where you are aggrieved about a finding, whether by the police or by the Auditor General or the public protector or any institutions, ultimately you are entitled as a citizen to challenge appropriately at the correct institutions of the courts of law. So that is open to everybody, and we accept that our members and our leaders are not excluded in terms of those protection of those rights as well, to can challenge decisions and opinions and of various institutions, as long as they take the correct steps constitutionally.
But Dr. James, is the Western Cape, which you often make an example of, immune from corruption?
Well, the fact is that the Scorpions were disbanded and replaced by a much weaker Hawks, and the Hawks are ineffective, and they've been compromised in many ways. That the accountability, the key thing is accountability. It's accountability of ministers. It's the accountability of the president in terms of making sure corruption doesn't happen in departments. We have a situation where civil servants actually do business with government, which creates an avenue for major corruption. So all of that has to be cleaned out with the principle of good governance. The DA in the Western Cape has had clean audits across departments. It is ranked, it's ranked the highest on a national level, so that we have shown what can be done.
Okay.
And if you follow our pattern of governance, of clean governance, we will clean up corruption in this country as a whole.
Mr. Rifetsi, are you content? Are you accepting what these two parties are saying? That where they are ruling, they are actually doing something about it, and they are not undermining the institutions that ensure that there is no corruption in this country, like the Office of the Public Protector, like the Office of the Auditor General, as you have suggested?
Well, Vuyo, if you look at the Auditor General's report since 2008, 2009, the AG has been reporting about failures, has been reporting about waste, has been reporting about mismanagement, and there has been very little action that has been taken. Accountability has actually become seriously threatened in this country. And as we all know, without accountability, we cannot have good governance. We need to make sure, as a nation, that we build on the good institutions that our Constitution has created and make sure that they succeed and not undermine them.
Let's not undermine them. Well, we're going to take a few more tweets and emails. To our viewers and listeners at home, thank you very much for keeping them coming. Let's read a few of them. Prulinks says, EFF, don't you think to nationalize banks and mines will make South Africans poorer? Emmanuel Pagati says, it's wrong for the ANC to believe people should live on handouts. Naledi Shalukana says, I was passing Nyanga today. DA should make example about Cape Town where they govern. It's bad. Well, do keep those SMSs, emails, and tweets coming. For now, though, we take another quick commercial break. We'll be back right after this.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Coming up this week.
South Africa has seen unusual rainfall in the last 2 weeks, which has caused a lot of damage throughout the country.
In next week's program, we'll discuss the health risks and hazards associated with the floods.
Join Dr. Sello Mutaung on Health Talk Live every Saturday from 14 to 1500.
In a one-page ad today in the New York Times, the Inquirer acknowledged its error for a story that purported to be an exclusive interview with David Barr Katz. The Inquirer also apologized to Katz, the playwright who discovered Hoffman's body. The actor died of an apparent drug overdose in February. The American Playwriting Foundation will award $45,000 yearly for unproduced plays that embody Hoffman's passion for the truth.
That's Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome to our Friday edition of A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. President Jacob Zuma officially opens the National House of Traditional Leaders and calls on traditional leaders to work closely with elected public representatives.
South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was before 1994. Many of our traditional leaders can attest to that fact, having seen improvements.
A View from the House, weekdays at 2:30 on SABC News.
welcome back. If you're watching and listening on SAFM or on SABC1 Channel 404 or SABC News Online, you are watching and listening to a live debate. And tonight we're talking about poverty. Let's go through some of the SMSs that some of you have sent. Chief Rama in Johannesburg says, to eradicate poverty, the gravy train must be stopped. The people in positions of responsibility must lead with accountability. And then another, it says, let those all political parties indicate to us how they will save South Africans from poverty. The thing is, South Africans are so paralyzed with the ANC handouts, so much that even if they get them once in a while, they're happy. Our problem in South Africa is that we have far too many people from outside the republic, says another one, who are employed, thus robbing us of our own resources. Well, keep those SMSs, emails, and tweets coming. We will be reading some of them. Let's go now to the various political parties. Let's get them to pose a question or make a comment. Please, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to be very, very brief, starting there with Cope.
Thank you very much. My name is Charles. I just need to ask a question to the representative of the ANC. Why is it that after the report of the public protector, the blame is now shifted to those directors, MECs? And I'm saying this because
just go straight to the question.
The question is, why can't Mr. Don't Know, who is the president of the ANC, Zuma, why can't he not take responsibility
Thank you very much.
for the buildings at his Nkandla house?
Let's go to the DA. Your quick question, please. Comment.
Thank you very much. I think I should preface my question to Dr.
Straight to the question, sir. Don't preface, please.
Dr. Patlele, the ANC has shown a reluctance to deal with corruption. The answer to why we have corruption, why we have poverty in the Northern Cape is right on our doorstep. Sylvia Lucas is reported to have bought Kentucky Fried Chicken, pizza, Nando's for 50,000 rands. Secondly...
No, thank you, sir. That will be all ANC.
Thank you.
I want to stay on my notes because they keep me on point. Over the past 20 years, I'm asking to the ANC representative, ANC-led government increased social security access to more than 16 million people. So my question is, what is the impact of these grants in fighting poverty, particularly children?
Thank you very much. EFF.
It's George Nyakama from EFF. My question is simple. In 20 years, my question is to the ANC. People of Ivory Park don't have, for 15 years, they don't have toilets. People in Tutau, there is quarter camp. People have been there for 7 years. For now, okay, in conclusion, what is happening to the government of the ANC? What did they do in the 7 years? What does Mr. John Block think? Where those people want to go to toilet?
Thank you very much.
Where do they go to the toilet?
Thank you very much.
We want toilets for our people.
Well, thank you very much. Let me deal with the first question from Cope. I think, with due respect, the gentleman there, I think it's really jumped the gun because after the release of the public protector's report, firstly from the ANC through the Secretary General made it very clear that the ANC will give a comprehensive report after its meeting, which is coming on this coming weekend, where the full NEC will discuss the report. Secondly, also the spokesperson for the president also went public to say on behalf of the president that the president has received the report, is studying the report, and the president is going to respond. Now, the gentleman is responding from hearing other people making comments of which the people are entitled to make their views, to express their views about the report. But the ANC and the president are still going to respond formally in terms of this matter. So please don't jump the gun. Secondly, in terms of from the DA, I think he was talking about corruption in the Northern Cape. We have made it very clear that we encourage every citizen, every institution, if there is any allegation of wrongdoing, let's report it to the correct bodies, because the examples which he is giving here in the Northern Cape, there are senior leaders of the ANC who are appearing in court. Senior leaders of the ANC and government who appear in court, and the ANC has not tried to protect them. The ANC has left it to the court to decide and judge on their innocence or guilt. So that is very clear in terms of where we stand. From the ANC, in terms of the grants, indeed, we are very much convinced, and as I said, not only us, but even independent institutions can confirm that if it wasn't because of our the grants which the government is providing, there would be even much more deeper poverty. And that's why many people are being shielded from even the impact of the economic collapse in the world in terms of because of the grants. Lastly, from the EFF, we have made it also abundantly clear that while we are saying that a lot of basic services have been extended to various communities who before 1994 could not even have a dream, but there's still a shortage. There are still areas where these services must be extended, and we are doing everything. If you read our manifesto, you will see to the extent to which we are going to accelerate the provision of those basic services.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pasha. I'm going to ask the other parties to briefly, I'm going to give you 20 seconds each to make some comments or following up on the questions and comments that were made by the parties. Quickly.
Well, from my side, is people must not boast about 16 million people on social grants. If you look at a country, it's 52 million, 16 million is 30% of the people. Now you should be boasting about reducing the number of people on poverty grants and not boasting about the number of people that are accessing the poverty grant. It shows a failure of the economic system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutsache.
No, I think it's clear that the ANC does not have the direction for the people of South Africa. Here we are running in cul-de-sac. There's only one agenda: to uplift our people through the economy, to alleviate the issue even of grant. Therefore, you need our people to take a role in the economy, to be participants of the economy.
Dr. Wilmot James, DA.
I would like my colleague from the ANC to explain to us why it is that if they protect those, they don't protect those who are fraudsters, why there's so many people convicted of fraud on its national electoral lists.
Thank you.
And I would like to further ask a question about growth and poverty, is if there's such a commitment to the National Development Plan, why is the National Development Plan not in your budget?
Thank you.
Why has it never been landed in the budget?
Dr. James, we're going to take another quick ad break. We'll be back right after this.
De Beers has launched its Venetia underground diamond mine in Messina, Limpopo. President Jacob Zuma officiated. He called on the industry to improve the lives of mine workers.
This project is also significant because it demonstrates confidence in South Africa as an investment destination.
African Bank continues to be punished for toxic debt. Well, earlier we spoke to the head of African Bank's retail operations. He insists that the company is not alone and the profit warning is not unique.
So African Bank is not unique.
That's business news, weekdays at 8 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you are watching and listening to a live broadcast. And tonight we're discussing poverty in South Africa. Now, just to get a sense from people who work with communities, who actually know what it means to be dealing with families and people who are poor in this country, I'm going to ask Lisa Macherman to just very, very briefly to talk to us about their encounters as an NGO working with the people where there's dire poverty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm talking now from the NGO perspective. As you all know, we are working close to the communities. And poverty is not a very, very beautiful picture to look at. And the main factor that leads to poverty is unemployment. The Northern Cape only, it's almost reached the line of 80% of the unemployment rate. And the question is now, how is the government going to solve this problem? Because poverty leads to no education. Poverty leads to theft, housebreaking, murdering of farmers, because the people are desperate for money.
Okay, thank you very much. So the question is, what needs to be done? EFF?
We are saying what needs to be done. It must just start on top. It starts with your public representatives. That's why the EFF is clear. President Julius Malema is our candidate for president for this country. He says he's going to reduce, the EFF is going to reduce the president's salary with 60%. Therefore, it means we are clear. The public representatives, whether you are an MEC, a minister, we will be reduced, your salaries will be reduced, and also the subsidies of the cars will not be given in houses, because we have a right to buy you a house and a car. Those are the things that can assist us, because the problem is those who represent us. The ANC have created public representatives of fat cats who doesn't even account to the people.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dikhetsi, your closing comments?
We need a government that can keep its promises and report back. We need economic growth, decent job creation, and not handouts. We need proper education and skilling of our people to be able to make a lasting dent on poverty. And as the Congress of the People, we are saying that South Africa needs a better government, and it deserves a better government. And as the Congress of the People, we are offering South Africans honest leaders who will be accountable for their actions and make sure that they implement the promises that they have given to the people.
Thank you very much. Dr. Wilmot James from the Democratic Alliance.
We need to support non-governmental organizations. We need to train more social workers. We need to expand residential and community-based rehabilitation centers. We need to expand access to people with disabilities. We need to expand public works program opportunities. We need an integrated job search, employment, and small business opportunity centers. We need to have opportunity voucher schemes. We need the full introduction of the youth wage subsidy. We need more early childhood development programs. We need to insist on the monitoring of grants, especially those given to children. In sum, we need to expand the grant program that we have, and together with that, finally create more jobs while we do that.
Dr. Wilmot James, Democratic Alliance. Dr. Pasha from the ANC, your concluding remarks, sir.
Thank you very much. Our manifesto speaks exactly to the issues of how do we move the country forward. We are saying that the only way to take our people out of poverty is by making sure that we implement policies which will support economic growth, but not just any economic growth, but an inclusive economic growth, that we must up the performance in as far as education and make sure that more of our people can get skills, but also that On the economic side, we must increase industrialization, make sure that we produce more goods in South Africa than we are importing. We must also make sure that we increase beneficiation of our mineral resources.
Thank you very much. Well, to our panelists, all four of you gentlemen, thank you very much for being part of this conversation, and to you sitting there, thank you very much for being part of our audience this evening. For now, join us again next week. It's a goodbye from me and the rest of the crew.
You missed the Oscar Pistorius trial? Watch the update and highlights of key moments in the trial on SABC News Channel 404 every night at 9 o'clock and at 5 a.m. All local, all global, all the time.
Zoom into Africa. This is Mali. The president is Mr. Ibrahim Boubacar Keita. Mali got independent from France on 20 June in 1960. The population is more than 16 million people. One of Mali's major languages spoken is Arabic. Monetary unit is CFA.